continue to remember. Well, with us in the studio this morning for Remembrance Sunday, between now and 9, Captain Robert Covers, who's with us, and Dr Faran Rizvi as well. Good morning, both. Good to have you with us. Thank you very much for joining us. So first of all, Captain Robert, of course. Rob, is it okay to call you?
Absolutely fine.
Jolly good. From the 212 Yorkshire Field Hospital.
Yes.
I know you're going to be reading the exhortation later on this morning at the Remembrance Service at Barker's Pool. And Dr Faran Rizvi, thank you very much for coming in again. From the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association in Sheffield, young Muslims have been out and about this month raising money for the Poppy Appeal. And over the past 9 years, the organisation nationally has raised over £150,000. Thank you for coming in.
Pleasure.
First question, really, today, what does it mean to you personally, Captain Rob?
So I think remembrance is a time when the nation comes together as one to remember the sacrifices made by its armed forces, and also those people that support the armed forces, to preserve the freedoms and privileges that we, as the United Kingdom, and also support to our allies around the world, enjoy. And I appreciate that we are going through difficult times, but I always think it pays just to pause and just to have I call it a stop-check moment, to sort of look and go, yes, I've got problems, but actually I'm in a very fortunate position in the world, and as part of a combined effort from all our services, be it either national or from the NHS right the way through to the armed forces as well. It's all part of the team that comes together to make that contribution so that we can actually enjoy the quality of life in our nation that we do.
And Dr Faran, does it mean something very similar to you?
I think I would echo the words and sentiments represented by Rob, really, that we enjoy so much freedom at the moment. We've fought, our sort of past generations that have fought so hard in the wars that we've had to establish those freedoms now that we all enjoy very much so. And I think that it's pertinent of us to take a moment just to sort of remember those that have actually sacrificed their lives, because it can be quite easily something that we can forget.
Now, Rob, I mentioned earlier that you're going to be obviously reading out the exhortation at the Remembrance Service at Barker's Pool later on this morning. How does it feel to read those words in an environment like that?
For me, it's a great honour and a privilege. As I said, as the nation comes together to commemorate our servicemen who've lost their lives throughout the course of the years. For me, it's a very proud and a great privilege to be able to read those words to sort of start the service.
Can I ask you, during the silence, what do you, you've been there and done it, if you pardon the expression, what do you think of, or who do you think of during those 2 minutes of silence?
I personally run back to incidences and sort of and situations when I've deployed. I was privileged to deploy to the field hospital twice during my career, during busy periods. And
where was this?
2011 and 2015. Sorry, not 2015. 2000. Apologies. You have to excuse me. Sorry. It was 2009 to 2010, and then 2011 to 2012.
And was that in Afghanistan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I ask you another probably difficult question? But and I know you were oriented around the field hospital, but did you know of people who you'd built strong bonds with, friends or colleagues who passed away in action?
I would have known of one or two, but predominantly I was in a very comparatively fortunate position in the field hospital. Was never directly attacked, and so my focus was on doing my part in the various roles that I did when I deployed in my team, making sure that we delivered the best care that we possibly could to all people that were injured in the conflict that we treated.
Yeah, and Dr Faran, £150,000 I mentioned a moment ago, raised over the years, significant figure by the organisation. Just tell us a bit more about the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association's involvement with the Poppy Appeal specifically.
All right, okay. Well, I correct your figures, actually. So for the last 9 years, we've been affiliated with the Royal British Legion. And actually, those strong links are in sort of London and the Yorkshire area, where we are now. So we have, this year, we've had approximately 600 members of our community sort of flooding underground stations, airports, city centre locations, railway stations, all in order to help collect money and raise money for the Royal British Legion.
Yeah.
And actually, over those 9 years, we've raised over £200,000 now.
Right. That's incredible.
For those causes.
Right.
So
apologies for that, but
no, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
But so we have actually made quite a significant impact
Yeah.
and raised quite significant funds for the Royal British Legion through the voluntary support that our members give.
Personally, why do you think it's so important for the association to be involved with the appeal?
So Islam and the Holy Quran teach us about supporting the country that you're living in, or being loyal to the country that you're living in. And we enjoy many freedoms here in England, and we enjoy many freedoms across the United Kingdom, really. And it's important for us to have a sense of belonging here in the United Kingdom. And by supporting the Royal British Legion, we're not only, providing our own help and support, it also brings us closer to living towards the values that are expressed in the United Kingdom, and those, that maybe some others wouldn't necessarily follow.
Captain Robert Crothers is with us this morning, Dr Faran Rizvi as well on BBC Radio Sheffield. Until 9 o'clock this morning, we're talking about Remembrance Day, of course, and Remembrance Sunday. It'd be good to get your thoughts. Who are you remembering this morning, if you are remembering a specific person, or maybe you are just reflecting on events of recent times and past times? 81333, start your text with the word Sheffield, please. It'd be good to hear from you. Earlier in the week, I was contacted by a gentleman called Nick Wright, who's written a fantastic, very poignant song about the Great War, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity just to take a moment and reflect on Nick's song. He's from Sheffield. This is Nick Wright and the Great War. This is lovely. It's this came through to me personally, not via the BBC either, but I don't know him. He just found my website email.
Yeah.
And I get quite a lot of that. I was like, I'm not sure about it, Anyway, I gave it a listen, and it was really good. So I asked Sarah if we could put it on today. I think it's a good stop. We normally have for this half hour, we have a song in the middle, so I thought it'd be perfect for this.
Has he wrote this himself and he's playing
it himself,
and singing it
himself? Yeah.
Very good.
So, yeah. Thank you very much for sending that to me. That's Nick Wright and the Great War, Nick from Sheffield himself. And very poignant lyrics and melody to that. Thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate it. We're talking about why it's important to remember on Sunday breakfast this morning, with it being Remembrance Sunday, of course. At 11 o'clock this morning, during services across the country, we're going to be thinking about those who gave their lives during the two world wars, as well as more recent conflicts as well. Now, of course, there has also been some debate in recent days over whether or not the Remembrance Poppy has been politicised. Albert Beale from the Peace Pledge Union, a pacifist organisation, is concerned that civilians killed in wars are being forgotten.
Partial remembrance, because the way that the red poppies are used these days, and this is quite explicit on the British Legion's website, is that it's specifically for the military dead, the British and Allied military dead. Now, we all know that these days the majority of people who get killed and who suffer in warfare are civilians. 90% are civilians. And yet civilians are explicitly excluded from our remembrance.
That's Albert Beale from the Peace Pledge Union. Let's just get your reaction to what you just heard there. First of all, Captain Robert Crothers is with us in the studio, Dr Faran Rizvi as well. Rob, what did you make of the comments that he touched on there, that the red poppy is just for those people who are killed in action, not necessarily for those civilians? That's what he says.
I think he says that as the situation currently is, and I do think he actually raises a very good point, in the sense that actually a lot of civilians are sadly badly affected by war, and yes, he raises the argument that perhaps we should be. His point is to that they should receive acknowledgement. His opinion. His opinion appears to be to share the should the poppy be shared to cover that category.
Should it be?
I personally wouldn't couldn't say a view on that. I would I'd say the poppy commemorates those servicemen who've lost their lives in service of their country. But I'd certainly say he raises a valid point, and it should be one that be explored.
Dr Faran, what are your views on what you just heard?
So I think if we take the poppy out of this sort of question, and you think that actually this is Remembrance Sunday, and actually it's a time of remembrance, so those people that would have lost civilian family members would actually reflect upon that during Remembrance Sunday, because that would be more that would be a lot closer to their own heart and to their own mind at that time. So at least having a time for when we reflect and we remember those that have lost their lives, we would still reflect upon the civilians. It wouldn't necessarily just be the soldiers or the people that were out fighting that we would be reflecting upon. I wouldn't, in my own opinion, I personally wouldn't necessarily agree that it just symbolises the soldiers.
Captain Rob, can I just ask you more generally about Remembrance Day and Remembrance Sunday? As time goes on, do you think it's as powerful, still as powerful, or maybe arguably more or less powerful than it has been over the decades?
It will be powerful for individuals affected by loss of servicemen. When I first joined, it was an action that I did to honour those who have served before me. And then as the years have gone by and as I have deployed, it has become, I think I appreciate, much more relevant.
Yeah.
And I think if you took that model and then applied it to everyone else, some people will come together. Some people will attend Remembrance as sort of they feel is right to do so, and then others, and then as the event gains more poignancy, then it will increase in significance for them. But I do think it is a very good thing that. I do think that the way the nation responds is absolutely fantastic, particularly with the commemoration of the anniversary of the centenary of the Somme, and I'm most grateful for the nation for that.
Yeah, and Dr Faran, can I just ask you, do you find that some people are, being blunt, do you think some people out there are surprised when they see so many Muslims, colleagues of yours, collecting for the poppy appeal? Are they surprised by that? They shouldn't be, clearly.
Yeah, they shouldn't be, not necessarily, but
Are
unfortunately, yeah, I think that they are actually. I mean, yesterday we were in Fargate in Sheffield city centre outside the M&S there, but people are surprised when they see us collecting for the Royal British Legion, because they expect, generally speaking, people in military uniform or someone with a military affiliation, and it can be quite a pleasant surprise to see that actually Muslims can also collect for the Royal British Legion.
Yeah. And just finally, can you see as time goes on that this becomes even more powerful rather than less powerful as time goes on? Can you see that happening?
I think so, definitely. I think that this is something that has been increasing year on year, really. More and more time and more thoughts are dedicated to the remembrance of those who did lose their lives in the wars. And I think that the poppy appeal, it is growing stronger every year from what I've personally seen.
And it is important, isn't it, Captain Rob, to involve not just Christians or Muslims, it's people of all faith and non-faith, isn't it, as well? It's not... Is it a Christian or a faith-based service?
It's a national act of remembrance, and we are very fortunate in the United Kingdom we embrace all religions in a peaceful and tolerant manner, and therefore, we have all religions and faith can serve in the Majesty's Armed Forces, and therefore we are just coming together to form an act of remembrance to honour those people of our nation, past and present, who are serving and who have given their lives to, as I said earlier, to protect the values and freedoms that we enjoy in our great nation.
Could I just add to that? The other thing is that it's quite easy to forget that actually 4 million Muslims did lose their lives fighting in the world wars as well for the British. From the Indian subcontinent in particular, quite a lot of them did lose their lives, and that's quite easy to overlook as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, well made. Thank you very much both for coming in today. I'll be joining you for the silence, as will many people at 11 o'clock this morning. Thank you both for coming in today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Captain Robert Carruthers there, from the 212 Yorkshire Field Hospital, and Dr Faran Rizvi from the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association in Sheffield. It's BBC Radio Sheffield. It's now 8:50. Let's get an update on the roads now. Here's Samantha. Morning, Samantha.
Well for us at the moment, of course, it is.
Is that okay? Sorry about some of the questions asked.
No,
it's yeah.
Good question.
Could I just get a picture for our Twitter feed so that we can hashtag it out?